a German warplane buried for over 7 decades under French soil, the pilot's last moments frozen in time, and inside, secrets that would change everything we thought we knew about that summer in 1944. This isn't just another war story. This is about what happens when the past refuses to stay buried. In 2010, a French farmer was doing what farmers do, plowing his field like he'd done 1,000 times before. Then his equipment hit something that shouldn't have been there, metal, deep underground. When they started digging, they uncovered a piece of history that had been waiting 76 years to tell its story. But before we get to what they found, you need to understand what I saw, what I helped build, because I was there when these machines rolled off the factory floor. I was part of the team that designed the Focke-Wulf FW190. My name doesn't matter anymore. I was an engineer, 24 years old in 1944. Too valuable to send to the front lines, they said. My skills were needed in the factories and the design rooms, making weapons that would kill thousands. I didn't think about that part then. I thought about thrust ratios, wing angles, fuel consumption. The Focke-Wulf FW190 was a beast, pure efficiency. We designed it to be better than anything the Allies had in the sky, and for a while, it was. The British Spitfires couldn't touch it at low altitude. The American P-51 Mustangs had to work twice as hard to bring one down. I remember the first time I saw one take off. The sound alone was enough to make your chest vibrate. The BMW 801 radial engine produced over 1,500 horsepower. It could hit 390 miles per hour in level flight. It could climb faster than almost anything else, and it was armed to the teeth. 4 MG-151 cannons, 2 MG-17 machine guns. We built them for one purpose, air superiority. But here's what they don't show you in the history books. Every single one of those planes had a person inside, a pilot, a human being with a name, a family, fears, dreams. Someone who ate breakfast that morning, someone who maybe wrote a letter home the night before. Summer of 1944, Normandy. The Allies had landed, D-Day had happened. Now the real fight was pushing inland. And in the skies above France, German pilots were flying mission after mission, trying to slow down what everyone already knew was coming. The end. We were losing. You could feel it in the factory, the way officers spoke in hushed tones, the way supplies started running low, the way younger and younger pilots were being sent up with less and less training boys, really, 18, 19 years old, given a few weeks of instruction and then strapped into a killing machine. One of those planes took off one morning in August 1944, a Focke-Wulf FW190, standard configuration, full ammunition, one pilot. His mission was simple: reconnaissance and harassment of Allied ground forces, locate enemy positions, radio back coordinates, engage targets if possible, return to base. He never came back. It wasn't unusual. Pilots disappeared all the time, shot down over enemy territory, crashed in fields, exploded midair. The Allies had air superiority by then. Our birds were outnumbered 5-1, sometimes 10-1. Every mission was a coin flip. The pilot's name was recorded in a logbook somewhere. His family was probably notified that he was missing in action. Maybe they held out hope for a while. Maybe they thought he'd been captured, but he never did come home. And eventually, his name became just another entry in a long list of the lost. The plane, though. The plane had a different fate. For 76 years, it sat underground, buried beneath layers of French soil, beneath crops that grew and died and grew again, beneath the footsteps of farmers and children, beneath rain and snow and summer heat, waiting. The farmer who found it in 2010 thought he'd hit a rock at first, but rocks don't have rivets. They don't have panels. They don't have markings stamped into metal. When the archaeologists arrived, they started carefully removing soil, brushing away dirt like they were uncovering a fossil, and in a way, they were. The first thing they identified was the wing, then part of the fuselage. The cockpit was crushed, buried deeper than the rest, but it was there, all of it. An entire Focke-Wulf FW190, remarkably intact. The German markings were still visible, faded, corroded, but there. The Balkenkreuz, the black and white cross that marked every Luftwaffe aircraft. The aircraft identification number, stamped into metal near the tail section. And the ammunition. The ammunition was still there, belts of rounds, loaded and ready, unused. That tells you something. It tells you the pilot never got a chance to fire. Whatever brought him down, it happened fast. Maybe flak from the ground, maybe an Allied fighter he never saw coming. One moment flying, the next moment falling. I think about that a lot now. In my old age, I think about the pilots. The young men who flew the machines I helped create. I never met most of them, never shook their hands, never heard their voices, but I knew them anyway, because I knew what they were flying. When I worked in the factory, I was proud. Proud of the engineering. Proud of the precision. We were building the best fighter aircraft in the world. We told ourselves we were protecting our homeland. We were doing our duty. It's easy to believe those things when you're young, when your country tells you that you're defending something noble, but then the war ended. And you start learning things. You start seeing what you were really part of. Not just building planes, but building the machinery of a regime that did unspeakable things. The plane they found under that French farm was one of mine. Maybe not literally built by my hands, but designed with my input. My calculations determined how fast it could dive. My stress analysis ensured the wings wouldn't tear off in a high-speed turn. The French authorities treated the excavation with respect. They understood what they had found, not a trophy, not a prize, but a grave. Historians examined everything. The ammunition told them the plane hadn't engaged in combat before crashing. The fuel tanks suggested the plane had been on the return leg of its mission. The control surfaces showed signs of damage consistent with ground fire. Here's what they think happened. The pilot completed his reconnaissance. He reported back what he saw. Allied columns moving through the countryside. He stayed low to avoid radar, flying just above the treetops. But someone on the ground saw him. Someone with an anti-aircraft gun. They fired. They hit something critical. Engine, maybe. Control lines. The pilot would have had seconds to react. Maybe he tried to gain altitude, to bail out. Maybe the plane was already too damaged. It rolled, stalled, and went straight down into the soft earth of that French field. The impact would have been instant, and then the earth swallowed the evidence. Over the years, soil shifted. Rain and weather did their work. The metal slowly corroded, but the dense clay soil actually preserved more than it destroyed. By the time that farmer's plow hit the wreckage in 2010, the FW-190 had become part of the landscape, hidden, forgotten. When I heard about the discovery, I was in my 90s, an old man, living quietly, trying not to think too much about the past. But the news brought it all back, every detail, every decision. They tried to identify the pilot through records, cross-referencing the aircraft serial number with Luftwaffe logs, mission reports, squadron records. Eventually, they found him a name, a face in a photograph. 22 years old when he died, from a small town in Bavaria. His parents had both passed away years before the plane was found. No siblings, no close relatives left to notify. But at least now he had a name again. I never met him. Never knew his name until they found the plane. But I knew him anyway, because I helped build the machine that killed him. People ask me sometimes if I feel guilty, if I regret my work. The engineering itself was brilliant. We pushed the boundaries of what was possible. But brilliant engineering in service of evil is still evil. And that's something I've had to live with. The plane under the French field represents everything about that time. The incredible human capacity for innovation turned toward destruction. The young lives spent like ammunition. That farmer could have plowed that field for another 100 years and never known what was beneath his crops. But the earth gave up its secret. The past broke through. I'm old now. Most of the men I worked with are gone. The pilots are gone. Soon there will be no one left who remembers it firsthand. But the planes remain, buried under fields, submerged in lakes, scattered across mountains, each one a monument to someone's last moments. The Focke-Wulf FW-190 found under that French farm isn't just a historical curiosity, it's a message from the past, a warning. I helped build that plane, and in doing so, I helped build the war itself. That's the truth I've lived with for 80 years. If you ever find yourself working on something, ask yourself what it's for, really for. Because decades from now, someone might dig up what you created, and you'll have to answer for it. Subscribe for more untold stories from history. Write your thoughts in the comments. I would love to listen to what you think about this incident.